Well, a good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. This is Stay for Dialogue. Today being a Tuesday. And of course, what is on card is the strike that is ongoing, bringing together clinical officers as well as nurses in the country. Doctors have actually postponed theirs for the further 14 days to allow for further consultations between themselves and government. But the crisis that is in other counties is completely untold. Areas like Bungoma and every other county that has clinical officers and nurses on strike. It's a pandemic. It's actually a situation that is unexplained, and you can always tell some of the anger that is already palpable among people who've gone to hospital and they cannot receive treatment. And that is what we're here to talk about, because yesterday, and probably what is shocking the world so much, is the death of Dr. Mobusu, who was actually only worked for a very small time, 28 years old, and he died when he had 5 months arrears that is not paid by the national government. To make it worse is the fact that even his colleagues have to actually come together to contribute to pay his bills because they are enormous. And his last message, though not very much authenticated to his colleagues, is please get out of these hospitals while you still have your life. You can still earn later. That's painful enough. Has the government neglected health workers? That is our question this afternoon. You're very much welcome to the program. In studio, I have Okoth Onyango, who is a medic, and I also have Wanjohi Mwangi, a political scientist par excellence, but also probably in the sense helping us in dissecting this issue. Thank you very much, Okoth. I'll let you introduce yourself, say hi to the viewers so that we begin and go to Wanjohi.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, from the University of Nairobi, College Sciences. It's an honor to be here.
Karibu sana. Wanjohi? Yes.
Sad week for this country, especially now that we are having COVID. Numbers are going up. Sad week for this country.
All right. Let's begin by answering the question that we're asking our viewers this afternoon, Okoth, which is, has the government neglected health workers today?
It goes without saying that the government has neglected health workers.
Okay.
Yeah, but while I say that as well, it's important that neglecting of health workers didn't just begin. It is a situation that we have had for quite a while, even before COVID.
All right.
So perhaps what COVID has helped us to appreciate is the depth of the crisis that we are in.
The imbalance.
The imbalance that we are seeing.
Okay.
So it goes without saying that yes, the government has neglected the healthcare workers. And as one has said,
yes,
it's sad for the country that the very soldiers we have put on the front line, these who are against COVID-19, have been left, to their own care, to their own, to their own devices to take care of themselves. We have literally sent them to the line, and we are doing nothing in the background to support them. So, it's true. The healthcare workers have been neglected, but it did not start.
All right.
COVID has just highlighted the depth of the
Govt says, and of course we've seen doctors strike as late as 2016 or as early as 2016, when that one lasted for almost 6 months, continuing. And there appears to be like the government never ever gets it right when it comes to our health sector.
Well, I want to say that the government in Kenya gets it wrong in almost everything. Because I saw a tweet by the DP, whereby in 2016 we had doctors on strike. 4 or 5 years later, we have COVID, doctors on strike. Before the KPM, under the leadership of Dr. Chibat, rolled out their strike as late as yesterday. They had issued a 21-day notice. There's this meeting they attended, and the government was not sure.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
Yes. And the attorney decided to call off the strike and give the government at least 14 days whereby they will sit down and discuss and see whether they'll come up with amicable solutions as far as the challenges affecting the health sector is concerned. But I foresee a situation whereby the government is not prepared to sit down with doctors because it has not been prepared from the onset. For example, these very same doctors when we had the BBI steering committee going down the country, the doctors came out and recommended an inclusion of the health commission in the BBI. One of the few things that were kind of deleted from the BBI.
Yes, is the health commission.
So the government is kind of not prepared to address some of these issues. And it's a sad thing for this country.
All right.
Especially now that we have, at least in 2016, we didn't have so many problems. Now we have a pandemic that's affecting this country. And what the political classes are trying to push, instead of now getting all its resources and everything towards fighting this pandemic and protecting our first line of defense, that is the medics, fronting the BBI.
All right. Of course, perhaps what one would wish to understand, because there's several issues in why clinical officers and nurses are on strike right now, and there's the reasons why doctors postpone theirs. One of the things that we've had is PPEs. We've also heard about employment. Of course, they want more human resource to go towards COVID-19. There's still also the issue of insurance, which probably in the ranking order, would you kindly tell us what is the most pressing issue for health workers right now?
Well, I would really want to have it in the ranking order.
Okay.
Because for me, it's not a matter of what to have, what not to have. It's a matter of what to have and in what place, like what to do.
Yes.
They are all important. It's a healthcare system. And then for this system to function, then every other, facet of it, every other aspect of it must be in place. When we take away any bit of it, then you get an imbalance, which will have a ripple effect across the whole system. So, for instance, there is the issue of salaries.
Yes.
Okay. Even physiologically, the stress alone that one can get from the lack of salary for over 5 months, like the current doctors, the COVID centers have had to deal with. That stress alone is enough to cause an immune suppression.
All right.
And remember, this person is at the front end of
I want you to hold out the static. I want us to pick a small breather. That is sort one small technical issue. We take a small breather, then come back and we'll begin from there. Where there's any need to rank some of the issues that nurses are raising, just hold it. Okay. You can boost that microphone. See, that mic can be boosted. So what is the issue? In fact, you're not even live. I realize ulitoka live kitambo. What do you mean? Nini iko live? Iko live wapi? But it's
One. Go. Welcome back. You're watching Table Dialogue. Of course, you can see things have changed a little bit. I'm not using a handheld microphone because we have had technical challenges. As of course, some of you that started with us, you already realized we had some technical problems in terms of sound, but that will be sorted. For now, so we can begin or continue with the program, we have to make do what we have. So if I look like your local pastor, I drop a word. We're still continuing here the conversation with the journey and thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, before we took a break, we were talking about the issues that are bedeviling the health sector, as it were. We know that they've complained about the lack of PPEs, the areas in terms of allowances when we talk about COVID-19. It's also the issue of human resource and cover. And I was asking whether there is any ranking order in terms of what you think the government should sort out first, and then the others can be sorted out later.
Yeah, and thanks for that question. Well, as I began saying before, it's not really a matter of, what to have now and what to have later. Okay, because as I said, it's a whole system that works together. And in fact, at this point, with the points you have raised, we are only discussing the human resource for health. Okay, the healthcare system itself is composed of around 6 other factors. Okay, 6 other components actually. So when you talk about the human resource for health, then all these things need to be in place for a synergy to happen. Because if we take away one, then you get an imbalance which whose ripple effect will be felt across, And I'll just give you an example of, for a medical standpoint. So you are this young doctor, initially unemployed.
Yes.
Then you get this call, you are employed, let me say, in one of the COVID-19 centers, and you are told it's going to be a 6-month contract. Okay. Then for these 6 months, you are hitting the 5th month with no pay. Okay, no pay, no protection, no risk allowance. Like basically, you are totally exposed. Okay, and even physiologically, the stress alone from being exposed daily to this environment is enough to suppress your immune system. Okay, and so once someone's immune system is suppressed, then that even predisposes puts them at a worse risk, when it comes to contracting this virus. And so for me, it's not a matter of looking into what we can have and what we cannot have. The question we should be asking ourselves is, how can we ensure we have a holistic system? And I must emphasize that it's not just about the human resource for health. There are many other factors or other facets that are missing in our healthcare system. It's just that right now, because of the situation that we have had in the last 2 weeks, the human resource dimension has been highly, highlighted. Because of how much exactly, Yes, and these are things that we have had with us for a very long time, I must say. But this is a time that we cannot afford to have business as usual. This is a time we must now wake up and address the matters that are affecting our system, because we cannot send soldiers to the front line and then leave them exposed to their own devices.
Quick one, with no particular order.
Sure.
I'm more concerned about PPEs because when you're in the front line, you don't have a gun. Then one would ask what you're doing in the front line. When you ask for PPEs as medical officers, what is the response you get from your employers?
Of course, the response has always been devastating. Let me say that. Because you will ask for the PPEs. Number one, yes, they will come, but either they will come poor quality, or they will delay in being delivered, and even the quantity won't be enough. I spoke to my colleagues at Mama Lucy Hospital, for instance, and they tell me a whole rotation, a whole night, the nurses station have only 2 boxes of gloves. And this is Mama Lucy, one of the busiest hospitals that serve, I think, the whole of Eastlands. Okay, so when it comes to PPEs, let me say the government response has been devastating. And of course, we have had the issue of the COVID billionaires and millionaires, that KEMSA procured PPEs which are rotting in their stores. But because of procedural issues and bottlenecks within the system, these PPEs cannot reach the healthcare worker at the front line. All right. So I think devastating is the word that I would use for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. And sometimes you wonder whether there's a country that lacks conscience about late reporting. Because like he rightly says, KEMSA still has some of these PPEs, and perhaps even the best quality is with KEMSA. The other day during a Senate probe, You hear the CEO of KEMSA say they still don't have a written instruction from the ministry to release this PPEs and in the price that is in the market, as it were, right now. And one wonders, is the government really sincere when it says these PPEs are available, our doctors are being supplied with these PPEs, but on the other hand, you hear doctors say, we don't have these PPEs, that's why we are dying.
This country is, we live in a very funny country. And one lover, in most of the developed nations, most nations are dealing with most of these health hazards by kind of investing more on preventive measures rather than curative measures. And all of the preventive measures, particularly for COVID, is one, from the onset, when we started discussing matters COVID, we did say that the nation was ill prepared.
Yes.
And yes, it's being seen. We did also highlight that the doctor-patient ratio in this country is a big mess. And we continue to lose our first line of defense to COVID. And the government is doing absolutely nothing. The other day, the acting CEO for KEMSA was in the Senate, as you have just said. And he did say that they are yet to receive a directive from the minister, the CS Kagwe, to release PPEs from their warehouses. And at times I wonder, will we wait? How long will we wait for our medics to die? How long will we wait for our people to die so that we now do away with all these procedural measures whereby I have to get written directive from Sarin Quarter so that I can do what is right? I think it's high time that the government and KEMSA and everybody who is involved in this fight moves with speed to make sure that doctors, medics get what they need so that we can combat this thing once and for all. We need to get back to our footing. We need to do away with this thing so that we can go back to normalcy. But the way we are handling this thing, we are in for a big trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I just have to add something to what he said, and I totally agree with everything he has said. What I see the government doing right now is self-preservation, trying to protect themselves. We have seen what, we've seen targeted campaigns against doctors on Twitter, which is very, very unfortunate. Okay. So Dr. Mogusu, who was a personal friend of mine, actually passes on, and then suddenly we release a payslip. I mean, first of all, how does Dr.'s payslip find its way to some bloggers' hands? That's the first question we want to ask ourselves. So the government needs to stop self-preservation and begin accepting that yes, there is a mess. And it's a fact that this mess existed even before COVID. But right now, in the situation that we have right now, we need to stop this self-preservation attitude, and accept that yes, we are in a crisis. And there are people with families, with friends, with colleagues who have put themselves on the front line to try and cushion the country and the common mwananchi against this pandemic. Now, this person who's put themselves out there, he is a human being breathing the same oxygen like you and I, with the same blood like you and I. He needs the most basic care like you and I. So when we send him out there, it is in our own interest to preserve and protect them. It is in our own interest to ensure that they have the best care affordable. As he has said, the doctor-to-patient ratio in this country is a mess. Kenya has the ratio of 1 to 10,000. The WHO recommends 1 to 1,000, one doctor for every 1,000 patients. In the rather 1,000 to one doctor to 1,000 people in the population. But then what we see right now is 1 to 10,000, which means the few that we have need to be preserved and protected at all reasonable cost. And so the government and other stakeholders need to put their foot down and stop this self-preservation shenanigans and perfectly begin defending and protecting and preserving the doctors and all the other healthcare workers of the floor, including the community health worker, who normally is the first to be called on site, because it is in our own interest to protect the healthcare worker.
Tell me something, because immediately after the death of Dr. Mogusu and the revelation that was made by Chibanzi Mwachonda, that first of all there was a 5 months arrears, the lack of PPEs. One Governor Alfred Mutua was rushing on Twitter to claim, number one, he was attached to Machakos County, but under the UHC program. That means it's the national government that is supposed to pay him, and then goes ahead to claim that there is no worker who is employed by the county government, health worker, who lacks PPEs in Machakos.
Well, I'm not 100% certain of the situation in Machakos. Okay. I can only hope that what he's saying is true. But for him to take that, to make that move and find himself, he's like he was distancing himself from blame, and that's exactly what I'm calling self-preservation. This is the time to begin, preserving oneself. It's a collective responsibility. I've seen fellow doctors say we have failed Dr. Mogusu. We are also accepting that we are part of that. So these politicians and the leaders need to stop self-preservation. It is a collective responsibility that we owe anyone that we set on the front line to protect this country. I mean, right now we've seen even these politicians themselves, initially when they got unwell, the first thing they would do is to fly out. But for some time during COVID, it was practically impossible, for them to fly out. And we have seen them at a personal level take the highest measures to protect themselves and the people that are very close to them. But then now, why would you suddenly, as a governor, in Machakos County, start telling us about how your doctors have been paid? Dr. Mogusu was serving the people of Machakos County. And I think that for me does it. That is enough. He was serving the people of Machakos County. And so whereas he may want to do what is politically expedient for him, I must say it is in bad taste. And it is true, honestly, because the government has charged some healthcare workers to some of the pilot counties for UHC. And it is true again that they have not been paid. And it is such issues that, we continue calling upon the government and any other stakeholder in this sector to push for a health service commission. Because when we have in one facility, doctors, some under the UHC program, under the national government, and some within the county government, you are seeing the same patients. You are using the same facilities. You are exposed to the same conditions and same, risks every day. Basically, it is not fair that someone else is receiving their pay while you don't receive your pay, simply because we have a procedural bottleneck somewhere. Okay. You get that? And that's why we continue advocating for a health service commission that will be an equalizer in all these matters.
All right. Quite interesting. Manjoki, probably, and one wonders, because Governor Alfred Mutua probably was trying to absolve himself of blame, but his statement reeked of, and I might be wrong, we allowed him to die because he was being paid by the national government. One wonders if you had all these resources, including the PPEs that Governor Alfred Mutua claims that there's no health worker in Machakos County who doesn't have PPEs. Would you then say that you denied him PPEs because he's serving the national government?
The challenge with our nation is we have two challenges at the moment. One is leadership and two is resources. On leadership, I will say this. If you look at the people who serve in different departments and cabinet ministries, I think from the onset, some of these people who are appointed to serve are misfits. Why do I say this? The cabinet secretary for health is not a medic, so he doesn't know some of the challenges that medics go through. The person who chairs the National Assembly's health committee, Sabina Wanjiru Chege, is not a medic. He just came from a media house the other day. Now she's sitting at the health. She understands nothing about the plight of the medics. Coming back to resources, some of the things that the medics are asking for, and especially those who are on strike at the moment, clinical officers, everything zeroes down to resources. For example, PPEs, procurement, that is resources. 2, pay. They're also asking for a comprehensive cover, whereby if I'm affected or infected on the line of duty, I will get medical attention, and now that I have this comprehensive cover, the government will take care of all treatment for COVID is very expensive. So the government will take care of all the expenses that I will incur as a medic, and that is not too much to ask for. So what I hear some of our politicians coming out to say, for example, what the governor for Machakos, is kind of so very unfortunate. Being in such a position and we being in this crisis is so unfortunate for such an individual to say such things, bearing in mind this person has a family, a very young family that he has left behind. And what we should do at the moment is accept that we are in this together. But sometimes last 2-3 weeks, I did say that as it seems, we are all alone as Kenyans, because people in government, people in positions of influence who will make sure that we are all protected from suffering the effects of COVID-19 are speaking the way they are. Some of them even coming out saying that it's not only medics who are dying, yet when they have some problems with their bone, they are flown to Dubai. Germany, Dubai, and then the president comes out and hires a plane, and he puts Joe on the plane and Junaid to go and visit him, and use monies from public coffers to go and see this old mzee, and now he comes out saying that it's not only medics who are dying. So unfortunate. All right. At this point in time, I'm this kind of a person who feels that navumilia kuwa Mkenya.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk about the medical cover. Okwa. Does it make sense that a statutory deduction would have the government then dictate how it will be utilized? And secondly, we've heard the government take probably an about time and say public servants will be protected by NHIF when it comes to the treatment of coronavirus. But then the doctors are telling us this is not the case.
Now this is the thing, you know, when it comes to healthcare, one of the factors that we must appreciate as a country is that at least 12.7% of Kenyans decided not to seek care, medical care. Yet they were unwell, at least in the last around 1 year or so. And of these 12.7%, a huge portion of them, the reason why they did not seek care was because of the financing aspect. Because a significant majority of Kenyans still, do what we call out-of-pocket expenditure for payments. Now, the matter of insurance in this country has been highly politicized. Okay, and we've seen that the government, we've seen that even, the politics in the private sector as well, and all of that. I mean, it has not made sense for me why our own public servants, the political leaders themselves would want a cover from a private insurer, yet there is NHIF. Okay, now here comes a situation whereby we take, we do what you said, statutory deductions from the civil servants, and then they give to the government, and then the government now determines what has got to be expended. Yeah. Excuse me, at the basic code, this is my money. Okay, so at least I must have a say, and not just a say, a significant say in how it will be expended. Now, coming to the doctors, I think for me it's a matter of social justice here. It doesn't make sense for me to be able to do a cesarean section on somebody else, yet I myself, I cannot afford it. Okay, when I am here preserving people's lives, with COVID and everything else, but I myself, should I fall, should the tables change and I become the patient, suddenly I cannot afford that. I lost my dad to cancer in 2018. And for the 3 years he had cancer, I was able to see what it means to be a patient within this system. And I felt it. Because, oftentimes I'm used to, being on this side and my patient on our side. So, oftentimes maybe we don't see what patients go through. But I began asking myself, the charges we ask our patients to pay, we tell them to seek care, are they able to access care? And through that struggle, I've come to appreciate that we need a comprehensive financing strategy, or a comprehensive cover for the healthcare workers. Because the mere reason that they are putting themselves out there to protect this person, to sustain this life, for me, that is enough. Knowing that even they themselves could easily contract those diseases, could easily contract those conditions, that develop those conditions from just being exposed on a daily basis to this environment. So for me, when it comes to comprehensive care for the healthcare workers, it's a matter of social justice. Yeah.
Does it surprise you that private insurers or health insurers have actually thrown Kenyans under the bus when it comes to the treatment of COVID? And then you also have the government doing exactly the same. And one wonders the social responsibility of the government and what President Uhuru Kenyatta is touting as universal healthcare. And what is it about in a pandemic like this one that the most vulnerable cannot be protected?
Well, it's so unfortunate. And from the onset, I've said in this show times above number that Kenyans are on their own in the fight against COVID. The other day, we had, I need to say that treatment of COVID is very expensive.
Yes. Very, very expensive.
Very expensive.
Very expensive.
And it has gotten to a place whereby we are being encouraged by this same government to have to embrace home-based care. I am yet to understand, for example, is the government sending medics to our homes whereby we are, or is it now family members, or we have people assigned to take care of people under home-based care, or Kenyans channeling, maybe if you have maybe a family member who has been infected, are you now going back to dipping back into your pockets and taking care of this individual too? Are these people, if at all, if relatives are going to take care of this person under the home-based care, are these same people going to get PPEs? That is another question, because if it's Kenyans taking care of other Kenyans out there, that implies that we still have more room for more infections, because these people are not trained medics, and this now compounds the problem further. And now, if they will have more people being infected, and the government is not coming on board to make sure that it takes care of treatment of this very expensive disease. NHIF is not taking care of people under COVID. Kenyans are already having problems, because when COVID came, most people were rendered jobless. Most people have been surviving on donations from well-wishers, and now here they are. The government has made sure that no PPEs for medics. It's not going to take care of these people under NHIF. So in a nutshell, we are being left for dead. But now, on the other hand,
you make it or you don't.
Yes, it's survival for the fittest. But on the other hand, we have people bringing on, and I want to go back to the BBI. People who come telling us we have 14 billion to throw into BBI, but we don't have a few shillings to help the medics and the medical sector survive through COVID.
There are those that appear to suggest the world is moving on, so should we?
No. Some things can wait. Yes, we will have the BBI, we'll have the referendum, but some things can wait. The other day I did see the collapse of UHC in Nyeri. People went to hospital expecting that the UHC card would cover them, because maybe you had some stomach upset, some few things, complications here and there. But you go to that institution and you are turned back. You cannot be attended to. This thing has collapsed. I'm here saying once and again that all these resources that we are going to channel to BBI and referendum, let us take all these resources, channel them back to our health sector, sort this mess. Life continues. We'll have BBI and referendum in 2022 or 2027.
All right.
Yeah.
Just to add something, I think it's important that someone reminds the government that an investment in healthcare is not a favor.
It's
that they are doing
right.
Kenyans.
It's a basic right.
First of all, it's a basic right enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. That is one. Then two, a healthy population is to the advantage of the economy of this country. True. Okay? A healthy population is a healthy workforce. A healthy workforce means better results. So someone just needs to slap the government awake and tell them, hey, this is for our own benefits. True. So it's not a favor you're doing them, it's their right, and there are benefits to it. Yes. I mean, our economy has suffered a massive hit during these times. But then the same workforce that needs to be helping remake this economy into what it's supposed to be has been left to their own to their own selves. And the politicians are all over dancing, and they are the ones leading the flouncing of all COVID-19 prevention measures. Someone needs to remind them that health is a right. And by not putting in place measures to ensure that every Kenyan has timely equal access to the best of healthcare, they are actually flouting on their promise to the Kenyans who elected them into office.
A quick one, because from the first announcement or the first state of the national address by the president on issues of COVID, and I think he's supposed to do his 12th in January or thereabout, there was an announcement of a kit that would go towards the payment of allowances for medical officers. To hear that there are doctors who have gone for 5 months without pay, and there are other pending allowances that have not been paid, one wonders, was that money not allocated, or has it been misappropriated?
Now these are things that I call them systemic bottlenecks. Kenya has got no shortage of policies. Kenya has got no shortage of thinkers.
Yes.
Kenya has got no shortage of, of well-meaning citizens. But what affects us is that the people who have been entrusted to ensure that, the policies and the systems that have been put in place become institutionalized and implemented are the ones who are failing us. It is true. I think it was at the beginning of April this year that the president stood before all Kenyans and made a declaration that 1 billion shillings had been set aside to, first of all, hire more healthcare workers to help fight the pandemic, and two, to ensure that there is smooth facilitation for each and every one of them who is involved. So to hear that that this hasn't been implemented, it's quite telling, and it's sufficient reason to raise an eyebrow, if not both, that where is this money? Where is the 1 billion shillings? We have medical interns, we have students as well who went to the front line. We have the COs, and when we're talking about 5 months, I'm aware of others who haven't been paid for 9 months. Okay? So we have all these people here.
That means from the time COVID started.
From the time COVID started, they haven't received a single dime in their accounts. Okay? But then somehow they're still required to show up every day. We've seen counties sacking healthcare workers because they demanded for their pay. So the question begs, where is this 1 billion shillings? Who will account for them? Who can account for this? Or rather, if it's stuck somewhere, why is it stuck somewhere? And then if we cannot get the answers to these questions, then that is telling, then we're a country of misplaced priorities. But in the middle of a pandemic, suddenly, the leaders see no reason to defend or rather to protect the interests of those who are actually fighting the country. Because let's face it right now, where we are right now, it's a war that the only people who can go on the front line are the healthcare workers. It is not because of some divine inspiration, or no, it's because that is the duty that we are bound to. That is the duty that calls upon us. Okay? And so, where is this 1 billion shillings? If it's not systemic bottlenecks, then could it be part of the COVID millionaire scheme that we had?
It's quite an interesting question. And one, Wajoni also wonders about the amount of money we've received from the Danish government.
My goodness.
The World Bank, IMF, has actually lent us money to fight COVID-19. One wonders, what are these areas the government has? If we even can find 14 billion to spare to do a referendum, then why would you have a area for doctors and medical officers?
Well, it's a moral question. We live in a country where we the people are kind of having decayed morals. It's in this very same country where you'll find people collecting burial money, and we have people who disappear with the same. It's in this country where people in leadership, and I talk of politicians, and I've said in this show times above number that politicians have their interest at heart, not the people's interest at heart. Before I come to your question, let me veer off kidogo. It's in this country where we see the government going for commercial loans, which are supposed to be paid in 5 months and have high interest rate, whereby you find that commercial banks would rather rent to government than individuals. Because the people who own these banks or have shares in these banks are the same people who are in power.
You're talking about local borrowing.
Yes.
Yeah, local borrowing, yeah.
Because these people are in power to make some political capital and enrich themselves. These are the same people who, for example, in the monies you are talking about, I know the monies were released, but you have people who will take such amount of money, deposit them in their accounts so that they can get some interest. Before you get that money, 5, 6, 7 months, or maybe a year later, they will have some interest to their advantage. This is the country that we live in, where people are, at the moment as we speak, people who know that doctors are dying, Kenyans are dying, but they will rather have PPEs resting in their warehouses, where when our front line of defense is in their streets, the brightest people in this country. Personally, I wanted to become a medic, but what I got in my KCSE would not allow me to step in medical school, so I ended up not going into a health science school. I went to social sciences, where I graduated. But I'm kind of happy today because if I would have ended up a doctor, I would have ended up a miserable person. I'm in a better place than the people who got better grades than me.
What are you saying? The system has made them miserable.
Yes, because tomorrow I will be the next senator of Kiambu. The people who, and these people who are in Kemsa will come to me. Medics will be in the streets. So I'm better placed than people who got A's, went to the university.
The pyramid is now inverse.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. Yeah.
Let's talk about the numbers, and perhaps Okoth, you would be able to quantify for us the shortage in terms of human resource, because obviously it's a question. Even in 2016, there was a question of these doctors are not being employed. There's so many doctors out there, medical officers, clinical officers, nurses were not employed, and there's a deficit in our facilities, but the government still doesn't want to employ them. And then COVID-19 comes, and then there's a reaction. Are we going to employ, I don't know, 10,000, I don't know, 3,000? But would you be able to quantify the shortage we have when it comes to human resource in public facilities?
Well, as I said initially, there is a recommended ratio that is globally acceptable, in terms for healthcare worker or the doctor to population. That is 1 doctor to 1,000 people. Okay, but in Kenya we are faced with 1,000. One doctor has to attend to 10,000 people. Okay. So that's where we stand today. Now, it is true that we still have a shortage in terms of professionals. Okay, but then we are also faced with an interesting scenario whereby even the professionals who've been trained and qualified are yet to, we are not making use of them. So basically, we're a country that spits on professionalism.
We have specialists, but they're not engaged in.
Not engaged.
Okay.
I think right now we have at least 3,000 unemployed doctors in the country. Now, that is one level of the discussion. And when you look at this, oftentimes the reason that has been fronted by by government and those involved in this matter is the issue of resources. Because to employ a doctor, you need the resources. You need to, their salaries, their allowances, the materials they will require, everything. Okay, so the reason why we have this shortage in terms of healthcare workers at the front line, one of the reasons is because first of all we are not using what we already have. Okay, 2, those who are in the system are not well incentivized to remain within the system.
Okay.
And so people, like right now, what Dr. and I can tell you for sure that was Dr. Magusu's text when he said, "Get away, get your money, chuck the system." Okay, so
that was his text.
That was his text because I knew him personally. That was his text. Now, this is the question I would ask. I'm in medical school. The government spends a lot of money to train me. Okay, a lot of money.
Yes.
And then I leave the system. You don't really make use of me, or should you absorb me? You make the environment very hostile for me to do the things you trained me to do. So whose loss is it?
It's actually the government's loss.
Okay, it will shock you the number of Kenyan healthcare practitioners trained by the government, certified by the government, who are now out there serving other countries. It will shock you. Botswana is one country that is overly populated with Kenyan healthcare workers. Canada is another one. Our nurses run to Canada like crazy. And it's not because they hate their country, it's because their country hates them. It's because their country hates them. That is one. Then 2, healthcare is dynamic. So when you train our specialists, we are able to come up with a system of addressing the need. So we need to have I'd push for a scenario whereby we sit down as a government and assess we need X number of general surgeons, we need X number of dental surgeons, we need X number of OBGY surgeons, we need X number of cardiothoracic surgeons, X number of internal medicine specialists, X number of oncologists, and then we direct our resources in a targeted manner.
Okay.
What we have right now is, I would say a monkey see, monkey do approach. All right? Just throwing, every county is fragmented by itself.
Yes.
We don't really assess the need. So you'll find maybe in one field we have an excess number of general surgeons, but we are having a significant shortage of internal medicine specialists. And actually in COVID, with COVID at hand, the IMED specialists are the ones who are actually required the most, if you asked me. Okay, so there is also that dimension of qualifying what you need, not just the quantity, but also the quality of the need.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Tell me, how many nurses should be allocated to one doctor?
I don't have the exact stats, but from my practice within the system, I would say a doctor would work well with at least 3 nurses.
3 nurses.
Yes.
I'm asking that question, Wanjohi, because KMPDU, because that's where we get all this news, in most cases updates as regards the doctors who died with COVID-19. And one assumes if then one doctor is supposed to have 3 nurses, one would be left asking, then how many nurses or clinical officers are dead if we're losing one doctor?
Well, maybe that is why we have the clinical officers on strike as we speak today.
True.
Because we have, I think we have 30 something doctors who are dead today.
Yes.
So if each doctor has 3 nurses under him or her, that implies that we will have at least 90 people who maybe would be dead as we speak. So
that's
that
true.
implies that the doctor, as in the government, should move with speed to make sure that all these issues are addressed, because we'll have some trickle down effect. If the doctors are affected, that implies that the people who work closely with the doctors will too be infected. That will then zero down to the patients in our various hospitals, because as we speak, it's not only COVID that doctors are attending to. We have doctors attending to other diseases. So if you expose all these people, and maybe we have general doctors who attend to all sorts of diseases, and if we weaken our line of defense, that will imply that doctors will infect nurses. The same will trickle down to our patients, and the entire population will be affected. I don't know, maybe the government is aiming to achieve maybe a scenario where we'll have the entire population infected, and maybe we'll have this thing Tanzania are calling herd immunity. I don't know, I'm not a medic, so I don't understand how herd immunity works, because
you get sick, all of you, whoever survives, whoever dies.
And I think that is where we are headed as a nation. I think that is where we are headed. And there's this day, if I go back to what my friend here said, I walked to Chiromo, and I did take a fee structure for students who are taking medicine, who are in medical school, and SSP, that is, who are self-sponsored. These people part every single year with 450,000. 550,000.
Yes.
550,
Right now,
that is $500,000.
they have proposed to raise
year.
it to 720.
720 per academic year.
Yes.
Those who are government sponsored pay 28,500
Yes.
per academic year. So that implies that the government bridges all this gap. So it's very expensive to train a doctor. Very expensive.
Very expensive.
Then here comes the same government. These people graduate. We are very wasteful. This government spends all that money training these people, and now they're out there tamarking, looking for jobs. Yet our hospitals are understaffed. Then the same government goes to Cuba. They bring on board 100 medics. I want to suppose the same medics are not being paid too. If medics locally here are not being paid, I want to suppose even those from Cuba are not getting paid.
You'll be shocked.
You'll be shocked.
That should be the case.
Their kit is different, actually.
No, but they're offering the same services. Why then double standards? If our medics are not being paid, I want to suppose the same ones are not being paid. And if you get that answer correct, I want then to go back and ask ourselves, did we do justice to the health sector by devolving it? Do we have more problems when our health sector is in the county government than it were in the national government? So some of the questions that we should ask ourselves: was it a mistake devolving health? Should we now decide and take back health to the national government?
Okay, and let's spend some time on this question: whether healthcare is better when it was under the national government, or better when it is under the county governments. But also with the benefit of hindsight, knowing that why the health workers are pushing for a health commission is actually perhaps streamline some of the issues that have arose with devolution. But if you were to be asked honestly as a medic, where would you want healthcare to be post 2022 perhaps?
I'd like to be very categorical that at this point, I'm not speaking for the union.
Okay.
This is my personal opinion. post 2022, or even post 2022, let me say from the beginning, I would be more comfortable with healthcare being under the national government.
Okay.
The counties have proven to be a mess. First of all, because having the healthcare workers, rather, or rather healthcare advocates under the counties has presented a lot of inequalities within the system. Okay, in the sense that you'll find the same doctors, trained within the same facilities, exposed to more or less the same risks. You'll find one being paid salary X in Kwale, one with salary Y in Kilifi. Okay, very different. That is one. There is no harmonization.
Okay.
Then two, there is also the issue of that setting, unfortunately, within the tribalism. So you'll find most of us choosing to go, let me go practice back where I came from. I want to go and be an intern where, from my rural area, in the hope that hopefully I will be absorbed by my county government, which still does not happen. But then also, there is the whole issue of harmonization, which I believe a well-equipped and well-empowered healthcare service commission will address. We don't just want a commission, that is toothless. Okay, like what was being suggested initially. Honestly, that was some toothless dog. We want a commission that is empowered. We want a commission that is, that has the resources.
Even the one proposed now, you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have it right now, And what you are seeing right now is the same play we saw during the making of the current constitution. Okay, it has always been a matter of political balance. And what I find sad is that the government has always found that in time of political inconvenience, the disposable card, the disposable lot are the healthcare workers. That is quite sad. And Kenya should ask themselves, what is the government playing to? What is the government playing to? When, every time there is a political, inconvenience showing up, at the very first person you sacrifice is the very person you expect to, defend your life. So I would be more confident with the healthcare commission that is empowered. And I believe that we want a healthcare commission that will first of all harmonize employment. Okay? First of all, we'll be empowered to, carry out the quality assessment and assurance measures within the system, because you cannot handle healthcare in Kisumu without considering the healthcare in Kakamega, without considering what's happening in Kericho. All right. Because of the nature of healthcare. And so leaving this thing to counties, the counties have proven to have more issues to deal with. Okay. I'd be more comfortable with a healthcare commission that is empowered, strong enough, well financed to ensure that we have a harmonized healthcare system, from employment of doctors, procurement of medical supplies and equipment, including even disciplinary matters. I think a well-equipped healthcare commission will be the answer to this. Okay. And so what they had proposed in the BBI, for me, that was nonsense. All right. To call it the list.
Just nonsense.
Yeah.
I want to come to governments, because barely a month goes without doctors or clinical officers or nurses going on strike in counties across the country. And then yesterday, Governor Hospital Jamong of Busia, in his wisdom, says the workers should wait for this BBI to pass first, and we shall see what is in it in future.
That is what happens when you have comedians in high offices. We didn't expect anything good to come from them. I expected the governors to come out and complain about how they have not yet received resources, because health at the moment is devolved. And now that we have had delays of disbursement of resources from the national government to counties, I expected the county government at the moment, the people who should be in the streets demanding for monies to be released, are governors. Because these are the people who are supposed now to come in and pay our clinical officers, the entire medical staffs. And here now they are running around with the signature collection documents supporting the BBI, expecting that post 2022 we'll have a 35% increment to what they are receiving, what they're supposed to be receiving, which is 15%, at least 15%, which they are not even getting in good time. The people who are suffering, for example, in the morning I watched people of Mombasa going to the Coast General Hospital.
Yes.
The gates were closed. But we have hospitals in Kitui under Governor Ngilu, and they're still operating. So we have the places where...
But never mind, there was a medic who took their father to a hospital in Kitui. Actually, the father was, I think they were told he can't be admitted because the hospitals in Kitui too are not equipped enough to handle a COVID-19 case.
Yes, but at least
And they lost their dad by the way.
for other issues, people are being attended to. The outpatients are being attended to. But we have other areas whereby health services have been paralyzed. There's nothing going on. And there's nothing government is doing at the moment. And it's so unfortunate what Governor said. Governor Ojamong came out to say. I have said and I will continue to say, some of these things can wait. Let us put a halt to the BBI thing. It's a good document. What it outlines to do are good. But
I don't think some of its recommendations are nonsense.
Yeah.
that is his opinion, and I respect the same.
Yeah.
But let us have our priorities right as a country. Let us deal with this crisis. Other things will come.
All right.
Yeah.
One wonders, Okoth, because, and probably even tied to the BBI, because you have a situation where this government delivered BBI signature books quickly than they did masks, quickly than they did hand washing detergents.
But I've never seen them. Have you seen them?
Actually, I saw a lorry pressed by.
I've never seen
used
them.
Any, that belongs to government. But one wonders, and probably, in all honesty, are we dealing with a morally bankrupt government?
That is the right word, actually. That is the right phrase. It's a morally bankrupt government. Because, and they have done so well to show us how morally bankrupt they are. You know, first of all, where their priorities are. Okay? Yes, it's true. I believe some of the issues in the BBI are nonsensical, really, because we don't need them right now. And even if they were important, they don't need a referendum, you know, for them to be implemented. Okay? And so I think some of these things have just been put there, you know, just to confuse the mwananchi. And by the way, I've heard of signatures being extorted from people, you know. You're told, kama unataka kazi mtaani, eka signature kwanza. I mean, what is that? You know, I was in Diani just last week.
Yes.
And actually I saw it happening.
You saw it?
Yes. You know, the chief telling the people, kama unataka kazi, signature kwanza. That was so wrong, you know. So let me say that it's a morally bankrupt government, where the political class. I'm even ashamed of calling them the elite, because I don't believe they're the elites actually. The political class just wants to, you know, create, to create a situation that allows them to have what they want to have, and then what the mwananchi needs will come later. So it's my interest first. Then the common interest of the country later will come later. So that is one of the highest levels of moral bankruptcy that we have encountered as a nation. The other thing I must say is that as a country we need to have an honest conversation. What exactly do we need? Where are we as a country? What is important for us right now? And how can we, as a community, as a society, rally behind that goal? I mean, it's evident. There are many issues. It's actually, as Andrea said, it's a good thing. We need to build some bridges. It is true. But then, what I don't get is, why do we have to stuff in things that are not really a priority right now into this document? And then, why should you force Kenyans to have a yes/no discussion about BBI? Why not fragment the vote?
Okay.
I mean, we go to the elections and we vote for so and so president, so and so governor. We vote different parties, even different coalitions. Why not fragment those things so that Kenyans actually have a concise voice to speak about?
Okay.
Why not? Why should we just,
You also support a multi-question.
Yes.
Because that's why I say some of the things that are nonsense, and those nonsensical things will vote no. But the things that are actually good.
All right, interesting. Let's talk about the committee you were making reference to, led by Sabina Shege. They brought a report to Parliament last week. I don't know your assessment about that report, but much of it was bashed even by members of Parliament. Were saying, guys, you stopped short of naming the people who stole the COVID-19 money through KEMSA. And it even looked like it was a conspiracy to even emit some names and some companies that are dealt with KEMSA, as it were. But there's two committees, the Health Committee, the Standing Health Committee in the Senate, led by Michael Mbito, Senator for Trans Nzoia, and this for National Assembly, led by Sabina Shege. Other than calling these people, they call it, engage in drama for almost a whole day. Is there anything substantive we can say we've gotten from the investigations we've seen being done by both houses of Parliament?
No. And this goes way back to when we had some problem with our sugar, and we were told that we had some mercury in our sugar, and these people went to investigate somewhere. That was under a committee under Kanini Kega.
He's the chair budget today.
Yes.
So he says money for referendum is available.
What we have in Parliament today is a cocoon of mediocres who basically sit to satisfy their stomachs. And most of these things you see on our national television, most of these sittings they make merely to get some sitting allowance. There's nothing that substantive that comes out of most of these investigations. And this will even go to some of these committees that have been formed to probe some governors who have been impeached. If you look at most committee proceedings, most of them have an outcome that is already predetermined. And they just sit for mere formalities. Even what happened the other day when the acting CEO for KEMSA was called. And they will then call CS for health, sit down, have a chat, get their sitting allowance, then go home. That is what our politicians have become nowadays. People who just go to Parliament to behave as if they are representing our interests, but what they go there to do is just to enrich their pockets. And then they will maybe decide to visit KEMSA warehouses. They go around, they are shown around the premises, then they come out smiling like buffoons, and they claim that they come out in televisions claiming that they have done and they are going to table their reports in Parliament, and after that nothing is done. But to be kind to them, none of our politicians have been to have investigation capacities whereby maybe, and the only arm of government that can do some of this, or the Department of Government can do investigations, is the DCI. So I want to suppose that going forward we shall have these committees, bring on board the expertise of the DCI, so that we will have meaningful reports going to the table.
But let me ask you, on this issue of COVID-19 billionaires, because there's actually an investigation that was being done by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and those files are forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions. I think almost a week later, the DPP referred those files back to the EACC. Up until today, we don't have a status report on the progress of those investigations. If there were bolts to be tightened, EACC has not told us whether there are any bolts they have tightened or they are unable to tighten them. And the DPP is yet also to give us a status update as regards the furtherance of those investigations. And one wonders then, would you say then that perhaps the government is also complicit in terms of these investigations into who and who stole what where?
Money was stolen. It's very obvious money was stolen. And from what I've been seeing, money was stolen. We don't have to beat around the bush saying that maybe money was not lost, maybe money was lost. But the most unfortunate thing, me and you know that people who trade with government are people who are already in government, very powerful forces. So we don't sit here and expect that some of these people will be exposed. So will be treated to some theatrics, and this thing will just fizzle out in the thin air, and we'll forget that it happened. Just like all the scandals that we have had in the past, this thing will disappear, and life will move on. This is Kenya.
As a medic, are you satisfied with the kind of investigations that are being conducted by Parliament?
I'm not. I'm not. As long as we're not seeing progress forward in terms of, prosecutions, possible retributions, then we're just going around in circles for no reason. Okay, and it's quite a sad thing that has been normalized in Kenya. Like even by the time a scandal is popping up, Kenyans already know it will be investigated, and then we'll go silent, and then you'll have another scandal to show up. Or at the most, a scapegoat will be found. They'll be tossed left and center for some time, and then again, the light will go down on them.
Yes.
So we are not satisfied, and that's why I said we need to have honest conversations. What exactly do we want? When we have an issue like the COVID, the COVID millionaires, it's something that everyone, by now everyone has accepted, including KEMSA themselves, have accepted that something is amiss. But then from that report you're talking about, nobody really pointed out exactly who should be held accountable. Okay? And I mean, sometimes I think the disconnect in our criminal justice system as well does not do us justice. Because when we have all these government entities, EACC, the DCI, the DPP, we don't see the synergy that is required sometimes. Like when a file is sent back from the DPP to EACC or from the DPP to DCI, I mean, we need to have a follow-up. Can you just perfect your work, finish it, and then forward it to the necessary authorities? So I think sometimes also these gaps within the system have given some foothold for these grand schemas of corruption to operate. Then the other thing I also must mention is that when you take a hyena and you lock it together with the goats, please don't blame the hyena for eating the goats. Sometimes the same people we expect to run these investigations have got interests in these issues, and I mean, it's a public fact. Their companies are mentioned, their associates are mentioned, their family members are mentioned. Okay, and so the power play sets in. So files disappear, witnesses don't show up. Judges or other magistrates sometimes, don't get enough evidence to even do something, to prosecute the case. And suddenly realize we are being taken for a run here. So there is also a sense that we just need to interrogate the whole structure of our criminal justice system, and from all angles, not only the judiciary. Like in this case, Parliament as well has a role to play in this. Okay. So we need to be thorough and have very honest conversations. What exactly do we want, and are we really getting it? I mean, let's take a look at NHIF. The
headquarters of every scandal.
Let's look at NHIF. Really, who knows what happened to NHIF till today? And maybe this way I might also want to just pick an issue with the Kenyan media. Just kidogo too. I don't know, maybe I'm doing over ambitious because I'm not in the media industry, but is there a way that we can have a dedicated follow-up to every story? Because how we learn of these scandals is normally through the media.
We drop the ball at some point.
Yes, I think you guys dropped the ball at some point, and then Kenyans are left, just to their own cares, and tunangoja scandal nyingine. So I think it's important that the media also, just creates a culture of going the full mile, going the full stretch. Okay, just go the full stretch. You began it, go the full stretch. Yeah.
All right, that's quite honest criticism of the media as well. But as we wind up, because my time is almost up, the President of the Republic of Kenya, when this COVID-19 millionaire story came about, in his address, he told the nation that he wanted the investigations concluded in 21 days. It was actually 2 weeks. He said 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yes, it was supposed to be concluded in 2 weeks. Well, that didn't happen because once the files had been transmitted to the office of the DPP, he returned them to the EACC. The president has not given us a status of the COVID-19 millionaires' haste, Yet I saw the DPP take files to him before the State of the Nation address, which was about 3 weeks ago. The president had a meeting with the DPP, updating him on the state of prosecution emanating from his office. Has the president failed the nation in terms of ensuring that those who stole from the poor and the dying are actually held to account?
Well, I think the president has failed. But at times, to be fair on him, because, you know, most of these people who have been adversely mentioned in some of these things are very close to the president. And we have even people who have been mentioned in the report, or who were suspected to be part and parcel of the KEMSA billionaire routing thing, who are his family.
Be careful. That can land you into trouble. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it was in the public domain.
Yes.
The public domain, actually.
You need to make a statement that can constitute a fair statement. Otherwise,
Yes.
what will happen to you. Go ahead.
Most of these things are out there. So the president is left at between a rock and hard place. Now, which way do I go? And maybe...
So you think the president's inaction is informed by the fact that he has vested interests also?
Maybe not, but we have people who are too close to the president's heart.
Which is also a vested interest.
Yes, and maybe, but him, if he decides to take action on the same, maybe he will strike him closer home, and he so decides to just close an eye and leave it to go.
And that's the point where I say, those are your views. They do not represent the views. Alright, basically, okay,
Yes.
on the president's inaction on this, even after promising action, where we haven't seen much from him or heard from him as regards what happened in this heist.
Well, I'll speak from my understanding of government and politics. I've been in politics for quite some time as well. There is a way in which I am not sure if the president's inaction is by choice or is situational, because there are state agencies that have been, you know, tasked to do some of these things.
Which are under him.
Okay? But then, we must also understand that the nature of our leadership in this country, that everything is political. Okay? And so, in as much as the state agencies are directly under the president constitutionally, there usually are vested interests. And that is something that I think we need also to have a very honest conversation about, the politicization of our state agencies. I know politics is important. I understand the very nature of politics, but then to what extent do we let the politics play into the issues that affect us as a country? So I think I'm not really sure if it's by choice or it is, an agency issue, or just a fails, like a failed system.
This is the same president who told us, "Mnataka nifanye nini?"
Yeah, of course, he's the same who said, "Mnataka nifanye nini," but that is what he said. I'm not sure that directly reflects what's happening within. Yes.
There's something he's doing, or there's something he can do.
I think there is something the president can do that he is not doing yet.
Okay.
Yes, I believe there is something that our president can do to put a stop to all this. Yes.
I want to ask you a very quick question before we wind up, because I saw Chibanzi Machanda's tweet, which was about 7 hours ago, and he says corruption plus COVID millionaires scandal, and now healthcare workers are exposed, sick and dying. Chronic capitalism equals to disregard for and disenfranchisation of labor, i.e. poor contract terms, poor terms and conditions of work. COVID-19 has exposed the country's ills. And you can't help but get a feeling of the desperateness that is amongst doctors and the dissonance that has gripped them with COVID-19. I know they have taken another 14 days for negotiation. Clinical officers and nurses are out in the streets. I think it's now doctors after 14 days will tell us what next. But then one wonders, you take a Hippocratic oath to protect us and to treat us, and we need medical care. But then there's also issues of resources, the issues of you guys don't have medical cover, you don't have your salaries in time. How will we balance these interests moving forward, so that we have a country has its medical officers working and its people healthy?
I'd like to first of all say that the call to preserve life is not necessarily a call to die.
Yo, okay. That's
Right?
interesting.
A call to preserve life is not necessarily a call to die. And I want Kenyans to hear me and hear me well.
Okay.
When you took the Hippocratic Oath, we committed to preserving life. We didn't necessarily commit to dying.
To die.
It goes without saying that I can only preserve life while I am there. I will not preserve your life while I'm in the grave. I will not preserve your life when I'm hungry, when I'm locked out of my house because I cannot pay my rent. I cannot preserve your life when my children cannot go to school, when I cannot afford the very services I am giving you. I will not preserve your life. So it's upon the Kenyans to ensure and to join us and hold the government accountable. To rise up and defend the healthcare workers because we are here for you. We can only defend you while we are here. When I go 6 feet under, I cannot preserve your life. Yeah,
That's true.
So I'll wrap it up by saying the call to preserve life is not necessarily a call to die.
Yeah, that Hippocratic oath that Raila Odinga was trying to quote yesterday.
Please, I'd ask him to go read it again because I think he didn't finish reading it.
Enjoy the last words, so you go.
Well, people have been coming out there saying that medics should go back to hospital simply because they took an oath. But them taking an oath, they took an oath under some conditions. So they have some bare minimums, so which are accepted world over. When you are going into a certain job, there are things that your employer tells you. You'll have A, B, C, D. Your working environment will be this way, and if you are kind of comfortable with the same, that is how you go into that maybe working environment, and you take an oath to serve. So is people who work for the police, in the military. But now, if now the government has denied me a certain working environment, I cannot get access to ABCD that I'm supposed to get. In as much as I took an oath, I'm not a medic anyway. In as much as they took the oath.
Political scientists take no oath.
We don't take oaths, but
These guys take no oath.
we can.
I mean, even if you take it, you will defy it the following Monday.
So I want to ask the government, both in the national and county government, move in speed to address the challenges in the health sector. Make sure that our striking clinical officers are back in their workstations. Make sure that you make a sit down with the KMPDU to make sure that in the next 14 days we'll not see medics going to the streets. Address all these issues. Let us sort the health sector has been a mess for far too long, and let us move forward. A healthy nation is a wealthy nation.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But in journalism, also we say there's no story that is worth dying.
Wow,
That's nice.
that's good to hear. That's good
That
to
is
hear.
worth dying for. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Thank you very much, also Joey.
It was a
for joining
pleasure.
us on
It
set.
was a pleasure.
And it's been a wonderful conversation. And I hope the government can actually call itself to order and start correcting these things. And I actually honestly think from where I sit that this country needs a reboot in terms of what are the priorities that we need moving forward. We cannot have a huge population of this country suffering because there are things the government needs to do and it is not doing. And that is the bottom line. The ball is in the court of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto. Let them deliver on the things they promised Kenyans. Well, my name is John Jacob Curie. I want to hand this bulky thing back to the producer, Mboga. I feel like a pastor on a Tuesday evening fellowship. Good evening.